Hey guys, welcome to Contract to Keys. These are chronicles of top producing agents. This is a place where real estate's best share what it really takes to go from a signed contract to a smooth closing and build a thriving business in the process. I'm your host, Brittney Kosev, broker, entrepreneur, and believer in the power of systems, service, and storytelling. Each week, we're going to pull back the curtain on the habits, hacks, horror stories, and hard-won lessons from agents who don't just survive in the business, they dominate. And if you're ready to elevate your career and close like a closer, you're in the right place. And today I have a very special guest, Miss Chalamaine. She is a top producing agent with BK Real Estate. She is a seasoned lender, and she's just one of my favorite people. So Chalamaine, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about who you are and why you got into this business?
So thank you so much for having me on the show. It's definitely an honor to sit down with you and in this setting and just give back. I think this is what the podcast is about, is to help people. And I definitely am a believer of being a good servant and being a good servant, helping people with sharing your experiences so we can all grow and together and better. Got into mortgage because I love helping people, and I saw a way that I could help the underserved or even the people who are marginalized, people that people would look over. I definitely have built my business on that over the years, and it's definitely been definitely a bonus to me, because the person who bought the $60,000 house, 20 years ago, it may be coming back now and buying the $400,000 house, or their family member is buying the $400,000 house. So I definitely think that, probably one of the biggest tips to anyone trying to grow their business is to definitely help the underserved, because those people definitely know people, and they definitely won't stay underserved for long, because when you own real estate, you're creating wealth.
Yeah. And when you said that, it reminded me of the concept of like doing good for others, putting that out in the universe, even if you don't think you're going to get a commission directly from it. Cause I know that
And I just experienced that.
yes, and that happens sometimes, but it's like when you do those things, and I told you this when you were dealing with that tough transaction, it's like writing a IOU with the universe, and you
Right.
know that it's going to come back to you.
Yes, exactly. So true.
What do you think is your specialty? Why do clients choose to work with Charlemagne?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think that people choose to work with me because I am transparent, and I think they're able to see that my heart is pure. I am legitimately trying to listen to them, hear what their need is, and then devise a system, a plan to help them get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you help them kind of from start to finish since you're
Correct.
both a lender and an agent. What about for other agents that are thinking about serving in both capacities? What advice would you have for them?
Oh, I love that. I actually had an agent broker reach out to me yesterday and say, "Can I please come be on your team?" I'm like, "Yes, let's do this." The advice is that you've got to be in it 100%. Like, you can't do both and be about the paycheck, because I hear a lot of people say that. Oh my gosh, you're banking on both sides. Well, if I was just trying to make money, I would only stay on one side. But by me being on both sides, I'm in it 100%. I'm really trying to walk them through from beginning to end. So I feel like if that person wants to be involved, and it does take a lot, but by being involved, then you remember. They're like, wow, this person really took time with me to make sure I understood everything. And I think that's probably a reason why I get a lot of my business, where when I tell people, hey, I can help you, they're like, yes, because would I would rather, have my one-stop shop, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And you really do provide that. I know that because you're so familiar with the loan process, you can serve clients in a deeper way than most agents can. Not saying that agents can't be great. I'm not a loan officer. I feel like I'm
Right.
pretty good at what I do, but
But you
you
own a mortgage company and you know what to do.
you have deeper understanding. So speaking
Yes.
of you, what's a recent win you could share with us?
A recent win. Honestly, I'm going to say that my horrible transaction was a recent win for me, because it's kind of when you have to put into practice everything that you've been telling other people, or everything that you've been taught. You know, taking the high road means so much. And if you take the high road and help somebody else out, even though they may not be appreciative of it, you can feel satisfied knowing that you did what's right in your heart. So with my really tough transaction that I had helping my little old lady, she just expected it. It was like, this is what you're supposed to do. And if I would have had that attitude about it, she wouldn't have closed. But the fact that I was able to look at it, and I had already pretty much worked through it in my mind before I even talked to you. Remember, I was like, I'm probably thinking I'm going to have to do this because, well, 6 of doesn't one the other. But I feel really good about myself that I could actually be selfless, right? Not selfish, but
And just so
selfless.
everyone knows, she had to completely walk away from her commission and still drive the seller to the closing table and deal with an angry buyer's agent the whole
Mhm.
step of the way without commission because she was just trying to do the right thing and get the deal done.
Yes. And the buyer's agent texted me after the fact and he was like, your seller took the water system that they didn't pay for. And I'm like, I need to have the water filtration system because I pay for it.
My
But
God.
I'm just like, I was just, whatever, my hands are done of it, but I really will count that as my win because we're going to encompass storms and it's how you come out the storm is what really matters. And so when you can come out of the storm on the other side unscathed and really feeling like you did your best, that's always going to be a win.
I'm going to switch this real quick just so we get to know you a little bit
Okay.
outside of real estate. Finish this sentence.
Okay.
When I'm not selling houses, you'll find me.
Dancing.
Woo! I believe that.
Yes,
I
that is
believe
my
that.
favorite.
Should go follow Chalamaine on her Instagram, on her TikTok. She's always posting hilarious, fun dancing. And as someone who's gone dancing with her before, there's a thing or two you could learn from Chalamaine.
I know. At one time, I was trying to learn this dance because this is line dance season. So when you go out, you're going to hear a line dance. You can't go anywhere and not hear a line dance. And one day, I was like laying in my bed doing the footwork, and then and it was like a brand new one. I'm like, okay, I got them. Like, how do you know how to do that? I'm like, well, if you lay down in the bed and move your feet, I'm like, I'm finding ways to learn new dances. I might be tired.
I want to ask you, so you're an agent here at the brokerage. What originally drew you to BK Real Estate?
Ooh, this is a good one. What drew me to BK Real Estate is that BK Real Estate is different. And BK Real Estate is different because you guys really do, or we do, come part of the team. But going back to that point in time, I was like, these guys really have everything. You have systems in place. So, and I like to use the word plug and play. You're able to plug into BK Real Estate and play. And what I mean by play is work, but have fun doing it. We don't get on our meetings and just like, oh God, another one bites the dust it is high energy and it's good feelings, even though we may not be talking about everything good, like my transaction that I actually am calling a win that I didn't make any money on it, but we still have good feelings, good times, and we learn from one another. No one's out to see anyone not make it. So that drew me. And it wasn't not to talk bad about the big names, but you don't get lost in the shuffle. BK Real Estate, way the system is set up, you won't feel like you're lost in the shuffle. And it's not like get somebody else to do it. There's somebody on the team who can do it and who can help you and who can show you. So that was the big reason why I chose you and chose the brokerage.
I love that. So if you had to have just one word that describes the culture here at the brokerage, what would it be?
Ooh, I think the brokerage, all the agents out, everybody is, the word that comes to mind is assertive. Like everybody really wants to, take charge of their business and make it happen. So I feel like it's hard to come into this environment and not feel that energy.
That. I love that. All right. I want to talk about your mindset for a little bit, Charlemagne, because
Okay.
one of the things that drew me to you
Uh-huh.
was shared mindset. But when you're having a crap day, when it's just a day that you feel like everything's going against you, what's something that you do that keeps that resilience, that keeps you from having a wobble that throws you off course?
A good question. I will say definitely my faith, as many people know, trouble doesn't last always. And trouble happens, but it's only to build us up. It's only to make us stronger. So when I'm going through the situation, I'm like, okay, wow, I'm I'm looking at it, I'm assessing it. I'm like, okay, what system am I going to put in place to get past it? But I'm going to get past it. I'm going to get through it. And there's not anything that I would allow me not to do my business, because I truly do love what I do. So I would just say my faith and systems, things happen, but you still have to keep doing your routine regardless of what's happening. You can't let anything throw you off track, because it's harder to get back on.
Discipline over motivation, right?
Discipline, right? Because discipline is your currency.
I love that. That's great. I've never heard that before. Discipline is your currency. I love
It really is, because wealth,
you earn that currency daily.
yeah, wealth is looking for a place to be, and wealth wants to find all of us, right? But it's not going to land somewhere where it's not going to be treated right, or, you're not going to try to keep it. You're not going to try to get it. And so that's kind of how I look at it. I mean, no matter what's going on, I still have to do what I'm supposed to do.
That. All right, let's talk about your business, because I know you work with a lot of buyers, but you also work with sellers. Are you still doing open houses, Charlamagne?
Yeah, I actually have one scheduled for this Saturday. I still do my open houses. I work with my buyers. I don't think that is, I mean, I know that people say, have your niche, have your niche, have your niche. And I think you should, but you also have to be open to other ways of generating income. Because if you are just so, you have your blinders on to just your book of business that you want to do, you're going to miss out on so much more. So I do work with buyers. I do work with sellers. And I would say right now, my book of business is half and half,
Well, and every market's different, right?
Yeah.
Like right now, we're kind of in a buyer's market. And so when you're doing an open house, what's one thing that you like to do that really you feel like you get a lot of traction by doing?
Definitely putting the open house out there early. You got to get it out there so people can see it. Visibility is everything. And if people are not seeing it, they're not going to come out. And then, reaching out to your sphere and saying, hey, I'm doing this open house, come see me, even though they may not come see you, and you may feel like you're wasting your breath telling them to come see you. But if somebody asks, hey, what is Brittney doing today? Oh, she's doing an open house. Oh, she is. I know somebody who was looking. I mean, you just never know. The power of the tongue is so huge. So when you put something out there, it's going to travel.
I love that. So getting it out there early, sharing it with your sphere, even if you know that they may not be interested in that particular house, but just
Correct.
getting it out there. I love that. What
Yes.
about a tip for newer agents when they're wanting to work with first-time home buyers? What's something that you do with first-time home buyers that you feel like really sets them up for success?
I always really put myself in their shoes. You know what I mean? Because if I come at it from my shoes, I'm not going to see things the way that they see things. So I always come at it from their direction. I'm on the other side of the table, and I'll use words like we need to do this, we need to do that. And I always tease and say, I've made myself part of y'all's family, because I really want them to believe that, I'm in it with them for the duration, however long it takes. If it's going to take 1 month or 2 years, I'm going to be with them on the journey to home ownership. So that's the best advice, is to really, not look at it like, well, how you were late on your car payment. Why were you late on your car payment? Or why do you have 6 kids and you're not married? Or, I hear people say that, and I just don't judge anyone.
Yeah.
You just never know why they're in this situation. And I don't want to say it's not your problem why they're in that situation, but if they're trusting you to help them, then it's your problem to help them better their situation.
I love that. Let me shift again, because you are someone I think is just always learning and growing. What's a book, a podcast, or a mentor that every new agent should plug into today, or a person they should follow on Instagram? Who's someone that you think every new agent needs to learn from this book, podcast, person?
Well, one that you introduced me to, actually, Jim Rohn. So I had not heard about him until we actually were sitting down at a table and talking about what we do for motivation. And so there's another book. I cannot tell you who the author is, but you can go to Barnes and Noble, any bookstore, and get it. And we'll probably have to bleep it out, but No Fucks Given is another book right now that I absolutely love. It really puts the harsh words in there, but it really is motivational. It's like, okay, hey, I got to stop worrying about things I can't control, people you can't control, and life is going to happen, and the only way to stay resilient is, sometimes is not giving the fuck, right? But that's what you have to do. You have to move forward.
I say this all the time, you're the main character of your story, but if
Right.
that's the case, that means you're going to be the bad guy in someone else's. And so you got
That's
to be
right.
okay with that.
That's right. That's right. And when we raise our standards, the victims that are out there are going to be irate. And, we just have to realize that we're constantly raising that bar, raising our standards so we can continue to grow. Not, huh?
I have a quote on my mirror. It says, "She who sets her standards high will never have to settle for less."
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's not about just going through or getting through. It's really about growing through the situation. And
Yeah.
the only way you can do that is realize that, hey, you're here no matter what's going on.
If you could go back to day one of Chalamaine entering the real estate business, and I know that was like about 20 years ago that you got into mortgage,
A
right?
little bit longer than that, like 30, like, Lord.
Oh, girl. If you had to go back to day one, Charlemagne, what's one thing that you wish you would have done sooner?
I would have gotten my real estate license sooner. I let a lot of people talk me out of it because they said I would never use a lender who was a real estate agent, and I was like, oh. And then when I was involved in women's council and other groups, there were positions that I could have done, but I didn't have my real estate license. And they're like, I stayed in my lane, but it really wasn't my lane. I stayed out of other people's way because they didn't want me in their lane. You know what I mean? And
Was
so I
scarcity,
definitely would have.
scarcity thoughts and not
Yeah,
your abundance thought.
exactly. Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. And so I definitely wish I would have, but as timing would have it, I'm doing it now and I'm definitely going to make the best of it. I
I love
talked with an agent today and he was like, Charlemagne, he was like, I was like, I was living the dream. All my income came from real estate. He's like, I don't have any income from real estate. And now I have to work at, over the night job. And I was like, he's like, but you're getting it. You're doing it. And the only thing that popped into my head was consistency. We're all going to hit these walls, so to speak, but we've got to stay consistent. And I know from watching him, he wasn't consistent. And it's just like, as the song says, we fall down, but we get up. But sometimes, the best way to say it is that when we're starting over, the best way to start over with anything is with experience. So when we come back up, we're experienced. We know how to do this. We
Yes.
don't fall down and stay down,
Yes, I love that. So, what's next for your business in the rest of this year and moving into 2026? What could I find Charlemagne doing?
doing. Charlemagne, and you've been telling me this, and I know I need to do it. I need to start actually advertising my real estate business. And I know those watching the show, she's like, she's a real estate agent and she doesn't advertise her business.
She's a top producer at the brokerage, guys. She was the second top producer at the whole company last year without even advertising.
Yeah, I don't advertise my business at all. And so my goal as I'm coming out, not like coming out, but I'm going to start advertising both businesses. I need to do it. And sometimes you get thrown into the spotlight. And I got thrown into the spotlight last week when I was at a meeting where the senator came in to speak to everybody. And the senator actually acknowledged me, asked for my card. His assistant was trying to take my card. And he was like, no, I want her card. And I was just like, wow, so I need to definitely put it out there. And we'll
I
see what
think the
happens.
spotlight shines the brightest, though, when it comes from an authentic place. And so you built that authority through mortgage, but here you are now. Your goal, from what I hear, is just to serve more people.
Correct.
And that's where the spotlight's going to shine, is you're serving hard, and that's where the closings are going to come from. And
That's right.
I love
They're going
that.
to be, and they're going to be plentiful. We won't know what to do.
I love it. So, how do you feel like the brokerage BK is positioned to help you hit your goals and milestones?
Well, that's a good question too. I feel like the brokerage is positioning us to, to again, raise that bar, to raise our standards. There's the meetings that we have weekly that talks about, tools and tips and just coming together. So having masterminds even, and then following up on the masterminds and say, okay, what are we doing? I think the things that we're doing as a collective. Again, we all have different ways that we're doing it, but the common goal is there. So coming together and talking about how we're making it happen.
I love that. And you're one of the busiest people I know. And you find the time to come to our lunch and learns. You find the time to come to our team buildings because you see the value. And also,
Right.
people learn from you and get from you. And to me, that's
Right.
what we're about at this brokerage is it's a
Yes.
collective. We have that abundance mindset. There's enough business
Correct.
for all of us at this place.
It really is. It really is. And we find time to even learn line dances while laying in the bed.
Yes, that part.
Making time.
I have another podcast. It's called Cut the BS, Build the Dream. And
I
Charlamagne,
love
I
that.
end every podcast and I say, how do you cut the BS to get closer to your dream? For you,
Mhm.
how do you cut the BS out of your life so you get closer to your dreams?
I love it. I think the best way to cut the BS is to ignore the BS that doesn't suit you. And that means belief systems. A lot of people are going to be out there trying to tell you what they think you should do and how you should do it. But their BS, their belief system doesn't apply to you. So you have to possess the skill of deduction. You take what you need from people's BS and apply it. You don't have to do the whole thing. You just apply what you need.
I love that. I love that. How can people follow you on social media? Where can they find you?
So I'm on all social media platforms under Chalamaine Armstrong, and my name is spelled Chalamaine. Soon it will no longer be Armstrong. We'll have a podcast about that later.
Woo! Teaser.
I know, right? And then Kiss Wealth Now all together. You'll be able to, find about mortgages or anything else. So Chalamaine Armstrong, Kiss Wealth Now.
I love it. Well, that's a wrap on today's episode of Contract to Keys. If you found value in this conversation, you can subscribe, leave a review, share it with other agents who are ready to level up. And if you want to stay plugged into everything that we have at the brokerage, you can follow us at BK Real Estate. Until next time, keep pushing, keep closing, and remember,
Yes.
every key you hand off started with one brave conversation.
I love that.
All right. Let me stop.